Nathaniel stepped out of the grand gala, the laughter of his wealthy friends still echoing in his ears. The night was filled with glimmering lights and elegant outfits, but now, as he walked into the upscale restaurant, he felt a wave of confidence wash over him. The air was thick with the scent of fine food, and the atmosphere buzzed with chatter. His friends, still buzzing from the night's festivities, filled a large table, their laughter sharp and carefree. "Look at that one," Nathaniel said, nodding toward Oliver, who was busy attending to another table. "He looks like he's worried about spilling a drink." His friends erupted in laughter, their eyes glimmering with mischief. Nathaniel felt a thrill from their reactions, a sense of superiority that warmed him. "Come on, Nathaniel, give him a break," one friend chuckled, but Nathaniel was already drawing in his breath, ready to unleash his next line. "Break? Why would I do that? It's not every day you see someone who looks like they belong in a different world," he replied, a smirk playing on his lips. Oliver, overhearing the remarks, felt his stomach twist. He tried to focus on his tasks, but the weight of their eyes made it hard to breathe. As Nathaniel continued, he turned his attention fully to Oliver. "Hey, waiter," he called out, his voice loud enough to make heads turn. "What's the special today? Or are you just here to look pretty?" The laughter from his friends grew louder, filling the room with an uncomfortable energy. Oliver forced a smile, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted his apron. The special is the seared salmon, sir," Oliver replied, his voice steady but quiet. "It's paired with what? Your hopes and dreams?" Nathaniel interrupted, the laughter around him peaking again. Oliver felt the heat rise in his cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and anger. He wanted to say something back, to defend himself, but the words caught in his throat. "Come on, Nathaniel, that's too much," another friend said, this time with less enthusiasm. But Nathaniel was on a roll, fueled by the crowd's reaction. "Too much? I think it's just getting started," he exclaimed, leaning back in his chair with a grin. The room quieted for a moment, then erupted in laughter again. Oliver's heart sank. He felt exposed, standing beneath the glaring spotlight of their amusement. "Can you at least pretend to be a good waiter?" Nathaniel said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You know, serve us with a smile?" Oliver's smile faltered, and he nodded, trying to mask his discomfort. "Of course, sir, I'll do my best." But the words felt hollow, and the tension in the air thickened. As the evening wore on, the laughter faded, leaving an awkward silence in its wake. Nathaniel, feeling triumphant, glanced around at his friends, satisfied with the attention he had drawn. But as he looked back at Oliver, he saw a flicker of something in the waiter's eyes, hurt, perhaps, or a quiet determination that made him pause. The moment hung heavy between them, a chasm that seemed too wide to bridge. It was more than the jokes or the laughter. It was a moment that would linger long after they both left the restaurant. When the night finally came to an end, Nathaniel walked out, feeling victorious. Yet, as he passed Oliver, he caught a glimpse of the young man's expression, one of shame and resentment. For a brief second, their eyes locked, and Nathaniel felt a shiver run down his spine. As they parted ways, both men carried the weight of that night with them. Nathaniel's laughter echoed in his ears, but it felt different now, tainted by the image of Oliver's fragile dignity. They were two men from different worlds, yet for a moment, their paths had crossed in a way that neither would soon forget. As Oliver stepped through the door of his modest home, a deep sense of shame washed over him. The laughter from the gala echoed in his mind, the mocking tones of Nathaniel and his friends replaying like a cruel song. He dropped his keys on the table and sank into a chair, his heart heavy. "Mom, I'm home," he called out, forcing a smile for his family. But inside, he felt like a ghost. His mother peeked into the room, her face brightening at the sight of him. "Welcome back, Oliver. How was your night?" she asked, her voice warm and full of love. "It was fine," he replied, trying to hide the truth. "Just busy with the usual." "Did you meet new people?" she pressed, sensing something in his tone. Oliver hesitated, the memory of Nathaniel's words still stinging. Not really, just the same crowd. He looked away, unable to meet her gaze. He thought about how he had tried to impress them, how he had wanted to be seen as someone important. Instead, he had been reduced to a target for their jokes. Meanwhile, Nathaniel sat in his lavish apartment, the remnants of the gala still lingering in the air. The laughter from the night felt distant now, leaving him with an unsettling emptiness. He stared at his reflection in the darkened window, questioning the meaning of the camaraderie he once cherished. Did I really need to do that? He muttered to himself, recalling the look on Oliver's face as he had humiliated him. The laughter that had once felt so good now felt hollow. What was the point? His phone buzzed with a message from one of his friends, inviting him out for drinks. He looked at it, but something held him back. Instead, he tossed the phone onto the couch and let out a deep sigh. Maybe I should have been better, he whispered, his voice barely above a breath. He thought about Oliver's nervous smile, how polite he had been even when faced with ridicule. Nathaniel had seen it, yet his own insecurities had driven him to lash out. As Oliver sat in his chair, he thought about his family and the sacrifices he made for them. He remembered the long hours he worked at the restaurant, the late nights when he returned home exhausted, yet grateful to provide for his younger siblings. He felt the weight of their dreams resting on his shoulders. Oliver, can you help me with my homework? His sister asked, appearing in the doorway, her eyes bright with hope. Of course, just give me a minute, he replied, forcing himself to focus on her. As she sat beside him, he tried to push away the humiliation from the restaurant. He wanted to be strong for her, to show her that they could rise above their struggles. Meanwhile, Nathaniel's thoughts drifted back to his childhood, the moments when he had felt alone, despite being surrounded by people. He remembered the pressure to fit in, to be the perfect son and friend. He had always been afraid of showing weakness, afraid that it would make him less worthy in the eyes of others. As he thought about Oliver, he realized that his actions had stemmed from those deep-rooted fears. What if I could change? He mused aloud, glancing at the framed pictures of his friends on the wall. They had never truly understood him. The laughter had always felt forced, a mask for his own loneliness. Back at home, Oliver helped his sister with her math problems, each equation a small distraction from the pain he felt. You can do this, just take it one step at a time, he encouraged her, trying to infuse her with the confidence he wished he had right now. Thanks, Oliver, she said, smiling brightly. You always know how to make it easier. As he watched her, a flicker of determination sparked within him. He knew he had to confront the feelings of humiliation and shame. It was time to reclaim his dignity, not just for himself, but for his family. In that moment, both men were on the brink of change, unaware that their paths would cross again, leading them to a place of understanding and redemption. A week had passed since their unexpected encounter. Oliver felt a mix of nervousness and determination as he walked through the park, thinking about what he would say to Nathaniel. The sun shone brightly, and for the first time in days, he allowed himself to hope. As he approached a small coffee shop, he spotted Nathaniel sitting at a table outside. The young man was alone, looking down at his phone. Oliver took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation ahead. He walked over, and Nathaniel looked up, surprise written across his face. Oliver, Nathaniel said, standing up quickly. I didn't expect to see you here. Yeah, I just wanted to talk, Oliver replied, his voice steady despite the flutter in his stomach. Do you mind if I sit? Of course, please. Nathaniel gestured to the chair across from him, and Oliver sat down. The air was thick with unspoken words. Nathaniel fidgeted with his coffee cup, and Oliver took a moment to gather his thoughts. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, he started, his gaze unwavering. The way you treated me at the restaurant, it hurt. Nathaniel's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness. I didn't mean to. Let me finish, Oliver interrupted gently, wanting to make his point clear. You made me feel small. I work hard to support my family, and your jokes made me feel like I was nothing." Nathaniel looked down, shame creeping into his features. "I didn't realize," he murmured. "I thought it was just harmless fun." "Harmless for you, maybe," Oliver replied, his voice firm but calm. "But it wasn't harmless for me. I felt embarrassed and alone." Silence hung between them for a moment. Nathaniel ran a hand through his hair, struggling with the weight of Oliver's words. "I'm sorry," he finally said, sincerity in his tone. "I never wanted to hurt you. I guess I was just trying to impress my friends." Oliver nodded, appreciating the honesty. "I understand that, but you need to know that your actions have consequences, even if you don't see them right away." "I've been thinking about that a lot," Nathaniel admitted, looking up. "I don't want to be that person anymore. I've felt so lonely, surrounded by people who don't really care about me. It's like I'm just a part of the show." Oliver's heart softened at Nathaniel's admission. "You're not alone, you know. We all have our struggles. I'm working hard to make a better life for my family. It's not easy, but I try to stay true to myself." Nathaniel leaned back in his chair, contemplating Oliver's words. "Maybe we're not so different after all," he said slowly. "I've lived in this bubble of wealth, but it hasn't made me happy. I'm tired of pretending." The conversation shifted, revealing deeper truths about their lives. Oliver spoke about the sacrifices he made to support his family, the long hours he worked, and the dreams he had for a better future. Nathaniel listened intently, his eyes wide with realization. "I had no idea," Nathaniel said softly. "I've taken so much for granted. And I've learned to fight for what I believe in," Oliver replied, a hint of pride in his voice. "It's not easy, but it's worth it." As they spoke, an unexpected bond began to form. They were two men from different worlds, yet both seeking something more profound than wealth or status. The conversation flowed naturally, each man sharing parts of their lives that had been hidden away. "I want to change," Nathaniel said, his voice filled with determination. "I want to use what I have to help others, to make a difference." "I think that's a great idea," Oliver encouraged. "We all need a little help sometimes. You can make a real impact if you want to." As the sun started to set, casting a warm glow over the park, both men felt a sense of hope. They had confronted the past, acknowledged their pain, and opened the door to a new understanding. "Thank you for being honest with me," Nathaniel said, standing to leave. "I'll do better, I promise." Oliver smiled, feeling lighter. "And I'll be here if you ever want to talk again. We're all learning, after all." As they parted ways, both men were left with a sense of possibility. Change was not easy, but it was no longer out of reach. They had taken the first steps toward a new chapter in their lives, one filled with understanding and the hope for a better tomorrow. Oliver stood at the window of his small apartment, watching the sun rise over the city. The light spilled into the room, filling it with warmth. He felt a change in himself, a spark of determination that he had not felt before. He wanted to take control of his life, to rise above the humiliation he had faced. He took a deep breath and made a decision. "I will not let that moment define me," he said to himself. "I will find a way to grow and improve." With renewed purpose, Oliver began to look for opportunities. He searched online for classes in hospitality management, hoping to learn more about his field. He also reached out to old friends and colleagues for advice. They had seen him struggle before, but now they noticed the shift in his attitude. "Oliver, it's great to see you motivated," one friend exclaimed during a phone call. "You have the skills, just believe in yourself." As Oliver set his goals, Nathaniel was also undergoing a transformation. After his encounter with Oliver, he felt the weight of guilt heavy on his heart. He had always surrounded himself with superficial friends, people who cared more about appearances than genuine connection. Now, he wanted something different. Sitting at his desk, Nathaniel scrolled through his contacts, contemplating who to reach out to. He paused at the names of his old friends, people he had laughed with at the gala. They are not who I want to be anymore, he muttered, pushing his phone aside. Instead, he decided to volunteer at a local community center. I need to understand more about people's lives, he thought. I need to do better. Days turned into weeks as both men worked on their personal growth. Then one afternoon, their paths crossed again. Oliver was at a cafe, going over his notes for a hospitality course, when Nathaniel entered. He spotted Oliver at a corner table and felt a mix of nerves and excitement. "Hey, Oliver," Nathaniel called out, approaching him with a smile. "Do you mind if I join you?" Oliver looked up, surprised. "Sure, Nathaniel. It's good to see you." Nathaniel took a seat, glancing at the notes spread out before Oliver. "Are you studying?" he asked. "Yes," Oliver replied, feeling a bit shy. "I'm trying to learn more about the industry, to move up in my career." "That's great," Nathaniel said, his voice sincere. "I want to help you with that. I know some people who might have job openings." Oliver raised an eyebrow, unsure. "You really want to help me?" "Absolutely," Nathaniel replied quickly. "I've realized that I need to use my privilege to do good. It's time to change the way I approach life." Oliver considered this for a moment, feeling a mix of skepticism and hope. "If you're serious, I'd appreciate that," he said slowly. "But it's hard to trust someone who has made me feel so small." "I understand," Nathaniel said, his expression earnest. "I was wrong, and I can't take that back, but I want to make it right. Let's start fresh." With a nod, Oliver decided to take a chance. "Okay, let's see where this goes." As they talked, a sense of camaraderie began to form. They shared stories about their lives, their families, and their dreams. Oliver mentioned his desire to create a better future for his siblings, while Nathaniel opened up about his loneliness and need for real connections. "I always thought laughter was enough," Nathaniel admitted, "but it feels empty, without meaning." "I get that," Oliver replied. "We all want to feel valued for who we are, not just what we have." Their conversation flowed easily, and by the time they finished, both men felt lighter. They had crossed a bridge, moving from a place of resentment to one of understanding. As they stood up to leave, Nathaniel smiled brightly. "Let's keep in touch, Oliver. I believe we can help each other." "Definitely," Oliver said, a smile breaking through his initial reservations. With a sense of hope, they parted ways, each man feeling the weight of their past lift just a little. They were on the brink of new journeys, ready to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. As the sun rose over the small community center, Oliver stood outside, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. He looked at the colorful banners flapping gently in the wind, each one representing a different project they would work on together. Nathaniel arrived moments later, stepping out of his sleek car, looking out of place in the humble neighborhood. "Ready for today?" Nathaniel asked, a hint of eagerness in his voice. Oliver nodded, his heart racing. "Yeah, I think so. It's just, this is all new to me." Nathaniel smiled reassuringly. "We'll figure it out together. Trust me, you'll be great." They walked inside, greeted by the lively sounds of volunteers chatting and laughing as they prepared for the day ahead. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, a stark contrast to the coldness of the gala where they first met. As they settled into their roles, Oliver and Nathaniel worked side by side, painting a mural that depicted the community's spirit. With each stroke of the brush, Oliver felt a sense of freedom. He turned to Nathaniel, who was carefully mixing colors. "You know, I never thought I'd be doing something like this," Oliver admitted. "I spent so many years just trying to get by. It's nice to do something that feels meaningful." Nathaniel paused, looking at Oliver. "I get that. I used to think that having money was all that mattered, but it's not just about that. It's about making a difference." Oliver smiled, appreciating Nathaniel's words. "It's good to hear you say that. I used to see you as just the guy from that night at the restaurant, but you're different now." Nathaniel rubbed the back of his neck, feeling a bit shy. "I'm trying to be better. I learned that I need to listen more, and understand what others go through. As they painted, they shared stories. Nathaniel talked about his childhood, filled with privileges, but also loneliness. Oliver shared his struggles, the sacrifices he made for his family, and his dreams for a better life. "Sometimes I feel like I'm just stuck," Oliver confessed, his tone heavy. "I want to be a role model for my kids, show them that they can achieve anything." Nathaniel nodded, understanding the weight of Oliver's words. "You are a role model. Just by being here and trying to change things, you're showing them that it's possible to rise above challenges." Their conversation deepened their connection, and before long, laughter filled the air. They joked about their artistic skills, or lack thereof, turning the mural into a playful competition. "Okay, let's see who can paint the best son," Nathaniel challenged, grinning. Oliver laughed, grabbing a brush. "You're on, but don't complain when mine looks better." They both focused on their sons, playfully critiquing each other's work. As the mural took shape, it became clear that their friendship was blossoming. Later in the afternoon, as they took a break, Nathaniel spotted a group of children watching them paint. He turned to Oliver, an idea forming in his mind. "What if we invite them to help? They could add their own touches." Oliver's eyes lit up. "That's a great idea. It would make them feel included." They called the kids over, and soon the mural was filled with bright colors and joyful designs created by small hands. The children laughed and cheered, their excitement infectious. As the day came to a close, Nathaniel looked at the mural, now a beautifully chaotic representation of the community. "I can't believe how much we accomplished today," he said, genuinely proud. Oliver beamed. "This is just the beginning. I feel like we're building something really special here." Nathaniel nodded, realizing the truth in Oliver's words. They were not just building a mural, they were building bridges between their worlds. "Let's keep this going," Nathaniel suggested. "We can organize more events like this. I want to help." Oliver's heart swelled with gratitude. "I'd like that. Together, we can make a real difference." As they packed up their supplies, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the community center. In that moment, both men understood that their friendship was more than just an alliance. It was a partnership grounded in respect, empathy, and the shared goal of creating positive change. With renewed hope, they looked forward to the future, ready to continue their journey together. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the community center where the event was set to take place. Excitement buzzed in the air as people gathered, their chatter a blend of hope and anticipation. Nathaniel and Oliver stood side by side, each feeling the weight of the day ahead. It was a moment they had both dreamed of, a chance to share their story and inspire change. "Are you ready for this?" Nathaniel asked, glancing at Oliver, who looked both nervous and excited. Oliver took a deep breath, his hands slightly trembling. "I guess so. Just remember, we're not just telling our story, we're showing everyone that change is possible." Nathaniel nodded, his heart racing. "Right. Let's show them what we've learned." As they stepped onto the small stage, a hush fell over the crowd. Nathaniel spoke first, his voice steady, but filled with emotion. "Thank you all for being here today. My name is Nathaniel, and I stand before you not just as a man of privilege, but as someone who has learned the true value of empathy." He paused, scanning the faces in the crowd, many of whom had come to hear their story. "Not long ago, I was blinded by my own arrogance. I thought laughter and wealth defined my worth. But then I met Oliver, and everything changed." Oliver felt a surge of pride as Nathaniel continued. "Oliver taught me that true wealth is measured by the connections we make and the kindness we show to one another. He reminded me that behind every smile, there can be a struggle." Oliver stepped forward, his heart pounding. He looked out at the crowd and found Nathaniel's support in the audience, which gave him courage. "When I faced humiliation, I thought I was alone. But that moment led me to find strength I never knew I had. I learned to rise above my circumstances and fight for my dignity." A ripple of understanding swept through the crowd. Oliver continued, Together, Nathaniel and I realized that our lives, though different, were connected by our experiences. We both faced challenges, and we both sought change. Nathaniel nodded in agreement. And that's why we are here today. We want to bridge the gap between our worlds. We want to encourage everyone to see beyond social divides and to understand that we all have stories worth telling. A woman in the front row raised her hand. How can we help make this change happen? Nathaniel smiled, grateful for the question. It starts with listening. Take the time to hear each other's stories. Empathy begins when we open our hearts. Each of you has the power to make a difference in your community. Oliver added, and don't be afraid to reach out. Whether you're in a position of privilege or facing hardship, your voice matters. We all have the ability to uplift each other. As they continued, stories of hope and resilience filled the air. The crowd was captivated, nodding and murmuring in agreement. Nathaniel and Oliver shared anecdotes of their journey together, moments of laughter and vulnerability that brought the audience closer. At the end of the event, Nathaniel looked at Oliver, their eyes reflecting a shared understanding. "We did it," he whispered, a smile breaking across his face. Oliver chuckled softly, the tension of the day fading away. "We sure did. I never thought we would be standing here together, inspiring others." As they stepped off the stage, people approached them, eager to share their thoughts and feelings. The connections that formed in that room were palpable, a testament to the power of their words and the sincerity behind them. That evening, as the sun set, Nathaniel and Oliver found themselves standing outside, looking at the vibrant sky. "Do you think we really made a difference?" Nathaniel asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. Oliver smiled, a warm light in his eyes. "I believe we did, and this is just the beginning. We have so much more to share and to do." They walked away together, side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Their friendship had transformed them both, carving out a path filled with purpose and compassion. They understood now that true wealth lay not in material possessions, but in the bonds they formed and the lives they touched. Together, they would continue to echo the message of empathy and connection, creating a ripple effect that reached far beyond their own experiences. Share this story if you believe that empathy can bridge even the widest divides. Leave a comment about a time when a connection changed your perspective, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. Together, let's create a world where every voice is heard and every story matters.